And the thing I really want us to kind of zoom in on there is we can take the best care of people and still not see them. Still not see the most important parts. Still not see the things that they want us to see about them. So we know we need to be better companioning each other through the grief process. All right, that's what we're talking about. Let's stay focused on that then for a minute. How can we do that? That's a very important question, particularly because we know that grief is tricky. It hides, okay? So we have to almost learn to hear the hidden language of grief because it's so often hidden. Now, I'll give you an example, a kind of a, let's say, maybe an everyday example that many of us could probably identify with, either as an elder or either as someone who is involved in an elder's life or caring for an elder. But I remember being at a neighbor's house once, many years ago. And in this house, the daughter and her family were caring for the father. And the father was there and staying with them. And this was it was a great situation. For the most part, it was going really well, because sometimes it doesn't, and this was actually going really well. And they were all having a conversation. And recently, the father was having these mini strokes, right? And these were affecting him. And because of these mini strokes, he was told he could no longer drive. All right? So everybody was having to adjust to the fact that the father could no longer drive, including the father, of course. And they were having a very active discussion because the father was saying, I want to go down to that coffee shop that I used to go to. And the daughter was saying, well, you can't, and she was getting kind of irritable. And he was getting irritable. And you could see the tensions rising in this situation. And they had taken his keys as well. So she was getting mad and he was getting mad. And she said, I take you anywhere you want to go. I said I would take you anywhere you want to go. I brought you to that coffee shop last week. I'll take you tomorrow if you want. What's the problem? This is what she's kind of saying to him. And he was getting more and more frustrated. And he finally just went quiet. Maybe many of us involved in caregiving and receiving care and caregiving situations can kind of identify with these little exchanges, these little heated exchanges. Anyhow, the daughter walked out of the room. She was frustrated. We imagine in her head, she's thinking, I'm bending over backwards to make sure you get to do what you want. What's wrong? You have what you need. This is kind of what we're almost hearing, I think, from her. And from the father, we are kind of sensing she's not getting it. She doesn't get it. She's not getting what I'm saying, and difficulty with expressing that. So she walked out of the room anyhow. And I was sitting with him. I had a pretty good relationship with this neighbor. He was a funny guy. We got along very, very well. And he looked at me and he said, I miss driving myself and I miss driving by myself. And I thought, of course he does. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't miss driving by themselves? Who wouldn't miss, I'm going now? Who wouldn't miss, I'm not liking what's going on in the house, I'm going to leave for an hour or two? The independence of that. Sometimes he didn't want to be around his daughter, and he didn't want to ask her when he wanted to go somewhere. The daughter was so kind of, let's say, caught up in her own experience of the situation, she wasn't able to get this. She couldn't tune into his experience, and he was having trouble communicating that. Now, underneath all of that, let's say the most important piece here, it's not even that conflict between them. The most important piece here is the hidden grief, the thing that he misses. What does he miss? That's what he wants space for. All that's required there is to simply say, do you miss driving yourself? You must miss driving yourself, All that's really required there is to kind of say, gosh, when you used to drive yourself, where did you go? What did you do? Tell me about that. Tell me about you, right? Tell me about you. We can't fix the grief. We can't make that go away for him, but we can certainly find out where it is, acknowledge it, validate it, and then learn something about the person from it. Who were you when you used to drive yourself? What was that like? I'm curious. I want to know. Now, the funny thing about this kind of companioning, as simple as it is a lot of times it ends up being enough, right? So while we can't fix the fact that the father can no longer drive himself, we can give him the space to grieve that. We can give him the room to do that, because anybody would miss that, right? We can give him that room. But when we are asking questions about where he would go, what he liked about it, what kind of car he had, what we are doing there is, we're saying, I'm interested in who you are, right? And giving him the space to talk about that. But in that space, pivotally, what's going on is he is able to reconnect with himself. He's coming back to himself. He knows who he is. You have left enough room there for him to be who he is. What was going on between him and the daughter was a space in which he couldn't be who he was. He wasn't being seen. He wasn't being recognized in who he was as a person. That's how it felt for him. She wasn't intending to do that. That wasn't the purpose. She was taking great care of him, right? But in that great care, what she was missing was his identity. And the thing I really want us to kind of zoom in on there is, we can take the best care of people and still not see them. Still not see the most important parts. Still not see the things that they want us to see about them. We can do the best possible things for them, and still not celebrate who they are, and what they're about and what they value, what they've contributed, what they're still contributing. We can miss all of that. We can get so wrapped up in the needs and the care that we actually miss the ageless self. Now, what I'm really trying to point out for us here is, in this example, in terms of a family and aging and caretaking and care receiving, this was about as good as it gets, right? This is as good as it gets. But there is this other piece where grief and these types of things are hidden, and we want to almost build the muscle that knows how to find where it's hidden. That's what we're speaking about.